welcome everyone. Thrilled to have you all here today. We want to be mindful of time because we got a lot to dive into. So I'm going to go ahead and kick it off early and hand it over to Brad here soon. But today we are talking all things manager tools. So what does that mean at CINC? Well, there's an app for that. And when you're a part of CINC Systems, as many of our customers know, there's two apps, right? So today we'll be diving into CINC Manager app and really getting a look at all things new, some existing. Brad's going to take us through just the app in itself and really give us a good high-level overview. So excited for that. And next week, we will be talking about homeowner tools and diving into our HOA board app in addition to our HOA portal. So Brad will walk us through a lot of the new enhancements that we have going on there and some to come. So thrilled to have you all here. Very important tools. This all plays a huge role in the day-to-day. So without further ado, super honored to have my teammate Brad Atching here, Senior Product Manager of all things apps at CINC. So Brad, take it over.
All right. Thank you, Jessica. Hello, everybody. So like Jessica mentioned, I will be going through our CINC Manager app. So I'm just going to go ahead and share my screen and we can dive right in. Right. Okay. And now I'm going to share my iPad. Okay, so like Jessica mentioned, we are just going to go through our CINC Manager app. This application available in Google Play Stores and the Apple App Stores is for your property managers, your community inspectors to be able to take the app on the road, perform their inspections. They can do these inspections in a neighborhood with no signal. They can do the inspections in a neighborhood with the signal. It's really, we kind of make it streamlined for them regardless of what the network strength is that they're going to do the inspection in. And I'm just gonna kind of walk you through the whole process. So first, what you'll see is this login page here. So I'm just gonna go ahead and sign in real quick. And sometimes you got to get the password right. Okay, so once you sign in, the first screen you'll see is a list of all the associations that you have access to as a user. Your user account is tied to your user account and CINC accounting, so the same set of associations that are set up there for you to see will be the same ones that you see here in the app. From these list of associations, you can actually just tap the heart button to add one to your favorites. So we've broken out this list into 3 different categories: all, favorites, and downloads. So all would obviously be every association. Any favorites that you have set up to quickly access will be in your favorites tab. And then if you've downloaded any association, which I have not yet, you'll see those in the downloads tab as well. All right, so before I get started into a walkthrough, I want to walk you through the settings first. We recently launched CINC Manager 5.0, which overhauled our settings experience. We wanted to make this an easier experience for you. Previously, it was kind of difficult to understand where a setting was and how to get to that setting. Now we've kind of improved that behavior. So settings are all grouped under one page with 3 distinct categories. So you have your global settings, your user settings, and your device settings. So the global settings would be applicable on the association level. You can apply those settings for all associations that the user has access to as well. So let me dive into that one first. So for global settings, the first thing you have to do is pick the association that you want to apply the settings for. So if I tap into select an association, I'm just going to go ahead and select all. I want to apply this to every association that I have access to. And then that will give you your settings that are available for you here. So the global settings that you can enable here are the association defaults. This basically is once you access an association, it has 2 tabs, a street tab and a drive tab. Street tab will just give you the list of streets in that community, and then you can expand those streets to see all the properties underneath. And the Drive tab gives you properties in a very specific order that you set up in Sync Accounting. And it's really according to how the inspector does his job or her job. And so that way it will allow them to perform the inspection in the exact list, the exact order that they want to perform their inspection in. So both tabs are accessible. It just, which one do you want to open first by opening the association? So that's how you can designate that default there. And then the other global setting that we have is how do closed violations expire? So they can either expire by calendar year or by creation date. So if they expire by calendar year, that means on January 1st of every year, any closed violations are expired, which means they cannot be reopened. If you want to set the expiration date by creation date, it will expire 1 year after the creation date. So if I had a violation that I opened on February 1st, 2022, and it's closed, I'll no longer be able to open it because we're past February 1st, 2023. All right. Next group of settings is your user settings. So this would be applicable to only the current user who's logged in, but on any device that they sign into. Global settings would affect all users who sign in. User settings is specific to the user regardless of the device. So
Hey,
your
Brad,
user setting, yeah,
real quick, a quick question here. Just to clarify, sorry. On our new settings app, global settings, just to clarify, that is based upon permissions, right? So like, a manager wouldn't get overwhelmed by going and updating their settings and it impacting the entire all of settings, right? Because you could set it up so that a manager wouldn't even have visibility to global settings, so they don't have to worry about making changes to the entire portfolio, right?
right.
Okay, awesome.
All right. So for these user settings, they are just how certain toggles behave. You can always switch these toggles off manually if you need to do so, but it's just basically on that initial load of that screen. How do you want the toggles to be presented? So when you're looking at your violations, work orders, or ACCs, do you only want to see the ones that are open, or do you want to see all? And so that's how you can set that. Favorite image settings. I'm going to get into this when we get into the violation portion of the demo. But the favorite image settings are specific for violation images and how you apply the favorite image. I'll go through that in a little bit. And then your sort settings. This is just how do you want to sort those work orders and violations when you see the list for any specific property. You can sort them by a variety of different ways. And that just is based off that user preference of how they like to see that list. And then finally, we have our device settings. This is specific to the device itself. So it would only affect the iPad that I'm holding in my hand right now. So right now you can have your theme, you can have light, dark, or just accept whatever the system default is, and that will change your mode there. You can also have what the reset alerts, when this is checked, this basically means every alert that pops up on screen is visible. You have a do not show again to many of the alerts throughout the app. So if you don't want to see those alerts again, you can check do not show again and it dismisses them, makes your job a little bit easier. But if ever you have a need to want to see those alerts again, all you have to do is go into your device settings and check this box again, and that will reset all alerts to be visible again. Another thing to make your life easier is what we call our auto crop. So when you're adding a violation image, we know that sometimes you have to add these images, at a pretty fast pace because you want to kind of lessen or minimize the homeowner interactions while you're doing your inspection. So one step that we make it faster for you is when you take that picture, it will auto crop the picture without you having to manipulate it yourself, and it'll just kind of do it for you. And that way it's cropped and everything is ready to go so that picture can be added to your violation letters. Next is select note types to display. You can set up all sorts of notes types in Sync Accounting. And this is just letting you know what type of notes do you want to be visible in the app itself. So if you only want to see, homeowner contact notes or letters, then you can just limit it to that. If you want to see everything, you can just turn the toggle on for everything. Next, we have our repeat offenders. This is a new setting that we recently added within the last year. This is basically when it's enabled, if a property had a violation within the last 12 months, and you are now giving them the same violation. You notice the same violation during your inspection. It will start that violation level off at what the previous violation level was closed at. So if I had a violation in November and it was closed at level 2, and then I now have the same violation in March, and this is turned on, it will start that violation at level 3 automatically. Next is your download settings. This is just whether or not you want to turn downloads on to enable that. And then you also have the option to just download and sync over Wi-Fi only. And then you have your download options. Your download options is just what parameters do you want turned on for your download itself. Our downloads are limited to 1 gigabyte to kind of make the download smaller for you. So when you're downloading stuff, you just have to be aware of how big of a data set are you downloading and what can you do to minimize that download size. And these settings you can kind of play with to reduce that download size. And then finally, we have error logging. We automatically log anytime there's an error, which hopefully doesn't happen very often. We do log those errors automatically for you. However, when you're offline, we obviously can't log those errors because just by the very nature, you're offline. So any errors that do happen offline, if you have this enable local error logging turned on, then you could send those errors to us and we can inspect them of what might have happened while you're offline. And hopefully that never happens. And then lastly, we just have an about sync manager. So if ever you're curious about what a version you're running, you can just tap that about and that will tell you exactly what version is installed in your device. One thing that we focused on in this whole new settings experience is kind of making the app experience more in line with other app experiences that you are now used to in the stores. And one of the things we've noticed is settings now don't really need a save or an apply button. They just kind of immediately take effect. That's one thing that we've seen. So we're kind of trying to apply that same experience in the app itself. So now whenever you're changing these settings automatically take effect. There's nothing else you need to do. Just like if you're in your system settings for your Apple device, when you turn on any of those settings, it just kind of automatically turns it on. You're never clicking a save button in those. So we've eliminated that in our app as well, and we hope that will make your life a little bit easier when you're changing these settings here.
As Brad gets ready to pivot us to the next area, he's going to showcase. I have to tell you all, when he showed me all of these new settings, it didn't really register until after the fact of just how much that's very much a part of the user experience today, like Brad just shared. So I'm curious, anybody on our webinar or anyone watching this, feel free once you get through this webinar and you start working through anything on your device or you go in to modify settings, feel free to shoot us a message, your CINC account manager, or come and, just send us an email, contact us at some level, because it's going to be funny how much this plays out now to your conscious of just how intuitive this type of settings feature is, and how much like other settings that require you to push apply or save, how much that actually is not part of what you're used to anymore. So very cool to see. I know a lot of people might think, oh, settings, how grandiose is this? But it is such a big deal and such a big update that Brad and his team completed on overhauling our settings, because it keeps us up to speed on those standards that are set with the everyday experience that we expect subconsciously when we're operating our phones and devices. So just had to paint that picture because I thought it was so cool, Brad. Afterwards, now I think about settings in a whole different way. And if I can't auto do my settings, I run to Brad now because I'm like, they made me push apply and I didn't hit apply.
Yep. All right, so that is one of our goals. Obviously, the less taps that you have to do, the better your life is, because as an inspector, like I said, you're trying to perform that inspection with as little homeowner interaction as possible. So anytime you can minimize the taps that you have to do to complete the job, then we think we're headed in the right direction there. So I'll show you a lot of different ways where you can do that here. So let's dive right into an association. So when you tap into an association, like I said, you're going to see the street and drive tab. The street tab is going to be grouped into every single street within that community. If you have any common areas, the common area will list out, will always be visible on the top. It'll be the first one listed in your street list. You just expand your common area out and it will show you every single common area that you have set up. If you do have a drive order set up, when you tap the drive tab, it will show you those properties that are set up for the drive order in the same exact order that you set up in CINC accounting. So again, this is just to make your life easier. So if you're performing an inspection, you can just follow that drive order. Other settings here, or not settings, other things I just want to point out here is when you're looking at the top part of the screen, it's going to tell you the name of the association. The association code will be underneath of it. It'll give you the property manager's information. And then you have a bunch of different filter settings. This is another thing that we kind of improved upon it in 5.0. So when you tap your filter settings, it's going to take you to a full screen experience where it'll let you apply any filters that you want to see for this specific association. So these two settings, the property filters and the section filters, they work together. So what I mean by that is if I only want to see open violations in the single family section of this community, then I can just apply those two filters and it will show me all open violations within the single family section. So we've kind of helped that experience out a little bit easier for you. And it really makes it a lot easier for you to get to exactly the properties that you need to inspect. So if you only want to see violations due for escalation across all properties, then you just tap that one filter, tap done, and it'll take you right back to the street list and filter out the properties by only properties that have a violation that's due for escalation. And then it will also let you indicate how many filters that you currently have applied next to the filter button. So if you wanted to reset those filters, you would just turn this toggle back on and click done, and that will reset that property list to all the properties again. In this list here, you'll notice there is a violation icon next to each street. That will just kind of indicate to you how many violations are within that street. So take, for instance, the CINC street in the middle. CINC street has 5 open violations. So that means within that street, there's properties that have violations. This particular street only has 1 property, so that property has all 5 open violations. What you also notice is there is a red violation icon, or if you look at Clubhouse Lane, it is a yellow violation icon. The difference between the two is a red violation icon is a violation that is due for escalation. Yellow violation icon is just an open violation. It's not due for escalation yet. Other things I want to point out on these property records here. So whenever you expand these streets out, you're going to see all the properties within that street, and you'll see a few different icons underneath. So these icons, the first one is notes. So that will just indicate if there's any homeowner notes for open violations. So if a homeowner adds a note to an open violation, that will increase that count by however many notes are there. Second is your ACC requests. If there's any open ACC or ARC requests for that particular property, you'll see the count to that, and that icon will actually be blue. Next to that is your work order icon. Any work orders for that property will be indicated with the count, and it'll be displayed in green if there are open ones. And then violations, just like I said, went over, that will be either yellow or red, and it will indicate the count. All right, so let me tap into a property here. So when you get into a property, you're going to see the property address on top, the current homeowner name, the homeowner status, and posted date or settled date, as well as comments. Comments are really important for an inspector. These comments can be added to that property record in CINC accounting, or they can be added from the homeowner app. One thing that we improved on in the 5.0 version is when you click on the details of these comments, it's going to let you know the date at the top. So you see here, this date will let you know when this comment was added. This comment's really helpful because if a homeowner calls in and says, I'm really sick, I'm not going to be able to mow my lawn for about 2 weeks. Can you please not assess any violations for that? They can just simply say homeowner is sick and any other information that they need to add. And then they can save that. And that way, when the inspector is doing their inspection, they can see that comment, they can go in the details, look when that comment was added, and they're like, okay, I'm not going to assess a violation. This is a new comment, and they can go about their way. So like I said, that comment can be added from CINC accounting as well, and the inspector will see it right away. Below that, you'll see your new violation and new work order buttons. And below that, you'll see we have it broken down into 3 tabs: violations, work orders, and ACCs. The count will indicate how many violations are within that property, and it's using whatever current state of the toggle is. So right now, you'll know you have 6 open violations. However, if I wanted to see all violations, I just click that toggle to all, and it will change that count to account for any violations that have been closed. So 16 total violations for this property. And when you scroll down, you'll notice which ones are closed by looking at the gray icon there. Another thing that we've tried to make easy for you too is, rather than having to tap into a particular violation record to close it or reopen it, you can now swipe. So if I wanted to close this violation, all I have to do is swipe left, and that will close that violation, and I click yes. If there's a violation that I wanted to reopen, I just swipe left again and click reopen. So it's just that easy. Makes your life a little bit easier. Actually, let's stick with violations for a second. I'm just going to create a new violation. So if you go into new violations and you want to assess a violation for this particular homeowner, you would select what type of violation you want to add. These are all set up in CINC accounting. When you select that violation, so let's say landscaping, it will then say what type of landscaping violation is there. Well, they need to mow the grass. So you click mow grass, click next. This is another thing where we've tried to make your life a little bit easier. We have pre-canned descriptions that you can set up in CINC accounting. So when the inspector's out in the field, all they have to do is when they tap enter additional description, it will show all those pre-canned descriptions that they can quickly choose from, rather than have to type out something lengthy. I'm just gonna tap one of those descriptions, and then I'm going to add a picture. So when I add the picture, I'll just pick a picture here. Sure this person never would have a violation against them, but this is my niece and nephew. So when you click this picture, this is the auto crop setting I'm talking about. So if you want to skip this step and let the app do it for you, turn that auto crop setting on, and you won't even see this step. It'll just automatically add the picture to the app, saves you one less step. I have the crop setting set to manual, so I still see that setting, and it lets me manipulate it if I need to. Then I just click choose. It will automatically add the timestamp to that picture of when the picture was taken. Again, that helps you guys out. So if ever this violation is taken to court, or for any reason you need to prove when you took that picture, you can always refer to that timestamp of when the picture was taken. Now, our violation letters, you can only use one image on the letter itself. So if you have more than one image for that violation record, you need to tell the app which image you want to use for the violation letter that's being sent to the homeowner. By doing that, you just tap the star button. So this is where that setting that I talked about earlier, favorite image setting, I have mine set to auto. You can set it to manual. If you have it set to manual, that means the user has to choose which image they want to pick for their violation image. If you have it set to auto, like I do, it'll just tell you this is currently set to automatic, which means the app is going to do it for you. Again, one less step that you have to worry about. So once it's saved, it will always tag the most recent image added to this violation as the favorite image. So I'm going to go ahead and click save, and that will save that violation to that person's account. And it will start that whole violation process of however you set up that particular violation setup. It will automatically add in the due for escalation date for you and let you know when it's due for escalation. Once this violation reaches that escalation date, it will look more like this type of record here, where you see the escalation date in red, and that violation icon will also turn to red. All right, quickly go through work orders. Work orders is a similar experience where you can toggle this toggle to either open or on. This particular property only has one work order that is open, but that would also change that count to account for any closed work orders. And so any one of those work orders, you can tap into that work order record. It will let you see the work orders here, and the status of that work order, or if any notes need to be added to that work order, you can just tap the note tab. This is a very similar experience to when you add a note to the work order in CINC accounting. You can choose to email the work location, the vendor, or make it a public note. A public note means that the homeowner can see the note when they log into their portal. And then when you create a work order, kind of similar to violations, it just takes you through a similar type of wizard when you select your work order category and then that particular work order item. And then click continue, and it fills out a bunch of information for you. And you can fill out the rest as needed, which is your description, your status, due dates, follow-up dates, or signing a vendor. A lot of these things can be set up to automatically generate for you and through the CINC accounting setup. So if you set auto due dates or auto follow-up dates, or you've set up which vendors should be linked to this particular maintenance category or maintenance item, all those will be pre-filled in to make the app user's job a little bit easier. Close out of that. Finally, you got your ACCs. This is any ARC requests that are open for this particular property. They don't have any. This is a read-only tab. It's really for the inspector's benefit, where if they go in and they see there's construction material everywhere, they're like, what is happening on this property? They can look and see, it's like, oh, they have an open ARC request for a new fence, and it's currently set to be completed next month. So don't need to assess a violation for them. All right, quickly, I just want to talk about offline mode. So offline mode, whenever you'll notice, you see this little toggle that you see throughout the app, whether it says it's online or offline. This just indicates to the user whether or not they're working in whichever mode. So if I need to download an association because I know they don't have a signal or a weak signal, I'm going to click this little cloud icon. It's going to take me to a download selection screen where I can pick and choose exactly which streets I want to download. And then it will include those streets in the download and let me use that while I'm offline. The count next to each street, that's just indicating how many properties you're downloading. And then if you select all streets, it'll let you know you're downloading 28 properties. If you do a custom date range, so let's say you only want to download history from January 1st, you would just set your start date to January 1st, and it will only download data from that date forward. So that just makes your download size, again, a little bit smaller to be able to let you download everything that you need. If you only wanted to download the Drive tab, you would just tap the Drive tab, and you could download just your Drive tab. So I'm going to download just a few, just for sake of time, just a few different properties here, and click the download button. Once you're downloading, it will let you know where in the download it's at. You can always pause your download. So if I pause my download, it will let me know that I paused it and I can continue it later. Once you pause the download and exit the screen, it will let you know that little cloud icon has now changed to a resume icon. So then that lets you pick up that download at a later time. And it will also give you little indicators next to each property to let you know which out of what you selected to download, which download was pending, which ones were successfully downloaded. If I want to resume that download, I just click resume and it'll pick up right where I left off. So once you've downloaded everything and you're ready to work with that association offline, you would just take that association offline. I think I messed up here. All right, I'm working with actually a test build, so there it is a little bit not. Sometimes there will be some bugginess to it, so sorry about that. So once you've downloaded your association and you're ready to work on it, you'll notice now that that association, it gives you a little timestamp to let you know that it was downloaded. It will also indicate that it was just a partial download and when you downloaded it. So if you needed to resume it, you can. And it will also show all those downloads in that downloads tab as well. If ever you need to delete a download, again, just to make your life easier, you can swipe to delete. And then if you are ready to go offline, you just tap that offline signal and go offline. And then it will only show you the associations that you have downloaded. And then it'll let you perform all the inspections that you need to do while in offline mode. When you're ready to sync it back up, you just tap that offline toggle to go back online, and then it will sync all, and then you tap the sync button That will sync all your information back up to CINC accounting, and everything will be saved right there. That was a quick walkthrough of the CINC Manager app. There's a lot other nuances throughout the app that I could probably go on and on and on about, but I know we're short on time. So, and also be on the lookout. We are releasing our next version of the app over the coming days, version 5.1, that will give you even more enhancements to the app, including being able to search for properties by account number, seeing second address lines on property records if they have a second address line, and a couple other different things that will be coming out.
Very
So
cool.
that is the CINC Manager app.
Thank you so much, Brad. I appreciate you walking through all of that with us. As Brad mentioned, it's a lot to unpack. We have a lot of different features. We are constantly evolving, constantly innovating. As you heard from Brad, we already have CINC 5.1 coming out. So really exciting times for us here at CINC. I hope that in addition to learning about CINC Manager app, maybe you're an existing customer and you got to see some of the new functionalities that we've added, or maybe you're a future customer and you got to just see, you know, the ease of use involved with the app. Either way, I hope that you get a sense of the passion we have for innovation here at CINC and how we will continue to innovate and grow and evolve to only make your life easier. That's our objective. As you heard Brad mention multiple times, try to make it easier. And we all love a good toggle, a good swipe, anything that's quick and easy. Pretty cool. Brad and I recently heard at an event, we had someone who had never, ever been inside the CINC Manager app. It was another association manager. And our team on site challenged them to say, hey, go in here and create a violation, process it. And they were able to, without ever touching the app prior, go in and make a violation in less than a minute. That's how intuitive it is. And that's the challenge we present. You know, if you don't have tools at your fingertips for your team that are very intuitive and easy to use and easy to just navigate through, or a partner, a software partner who is just as passionate as Brad is about ensuring that we keep up with the standards of making that software, that tool easy to understand, easy to navigate, even with settings overhauls. I definitely encourage you, please reach out to CINC. Existing customers, if any of you have any questions or want to dive in further on the CINC Manager app, by all means, please feel free to reach out to your account manager anytime. That's what they're there for. They're happy to connect you with any of our subject matter experts around this if they can't answer it, which they're pretty well knowledgeable and versed in this as well. But you know, Brad's here to answer questions as well. If any of you are not a current customer and would like to dive in further, maybe you have specific questions, please feel free to go to cincsystems.com/request-a-demo, fill out a form there. That's your best way of connecting with us. Our demos are, you know, even though you're submitting for a requested demo, it's a non-hassle situation. We just do kind of what we did here today, but a little bit more catered to your needs and your questions. So we could dive in further with you based upon your business objectives. Other than that, super excited to dive in further with Brad next Thursday. So if you have availability next Thursday, please join us. Same time, same place. We will dive into the homeowner tools then. So definitely join us then. In the meantime, thank you all for joining. Thanks, Brad, for your time. And take care, be well, and we'll see you next week.